Welcome back to Doctor's Nutrition. This is our series on testing that you need specifically for that cardiovascular system.
Yeah, today we are going to be talking about something called homocysteine. It is something that we test often. We test it on our regular cardiac panel and our super cardiac panel, but it is not checked as often medically.
No, it's not, and it should be.
It should be.
Now, homocysteine, what is it? Okay, everybody says, well, what is homocysteine? Well, it's a byproduct of living and breathing.
Right,
If
so we're
you're-
all going to have some.
We've got it. Okay, you're going to have homocysteine. The key is it's a highly oxidized or highly reactive molecule as homocysteine. So it's going to do a lot of damage, or could do a lot of damage, especially to the arteries and veins. If it bumps into something, it's trying to steal electrons, it's going to hurt something. So that's why we want to get rid of it. We can't get rid of it, but what we can do is lower it. And what all the science is telling us now, and this is from a lot of research over many, many years, really, is that it needs to be below 8 micromoles. I think it's micromoles.
Micromoles, yep.
Yeah, 8 micromoles. And so it needs to be below that. If it's, say, 10 or 12, still within range, because the range for an average
Depends on the
adult.
lab. The ranges differ. I know like Cleveland Heart Lab, their range is 10. You see different ranges. LabCorp has a really high range, which is who we use it. And as you get older, they increase the range. And there's no doubt as you get older, it increases if you have a problem. Yep. But doesn't mean it's good for you for it to increase. So I think it's wrong to actually change the range and say it is okay as you get older, because we know it's one of the big risk factors for cardiovascular health. Now, you mentioned just a minute ago about lowering homocysteine. It's actually more about reducing.
Chemically, we reduce it.
Chemically, we reduce it. Yeah. We actually take it and turn it into methionine. Right. And methionine causes no problems.
Right.
So why do some people turn it into methionine and some people do not? Genetics. It's usually a genetic mutation where you don't have that ability to reduce it from homocysteine to methionine. So therefore, it builds up. We even see teenagers. I've seen 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds with really high homocysteine because they do have the genetic mutation in their family. And what that is, there's a few of them that do it. There's actually more than one genetic mutation. The one that everybody kind of hears about, and it's probably in the news a lot and have a lot of videos probably out there on it, is your methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase enzyme.
Right.
If you have a genetic mutation for that enzyme, it means you don't have the enzyme to properly return homocysteine into methionine.
Correct. You can't methylate properly.
Right, you can't methylate properly.
Now, what is methylation? Well, it's simply taking one molecule off of that and putting on a CH3, carbon and 3 hydrogens. That's a methyl group. And if you just cover it up in methyl groups, now we change it totally.
So the people that have that mutation can't do that effectively. You can have one mutation, you can have two mutations. Then there's other mutations.
There's hundreds.
There's hundreds of other genes that can affect that methylation. So when you find that you do have a problem with homocysteine, it is probably a lifelong thing that you do have to take to change it. But it's easy to change is the good thing. There's been lots of research on it, and they know that to change homocysteine, you need methylfolate, methyl B12, betaine, a little bit of B6, B2, some of the other vitamins. And they know that if you have that problem, taking NAC is beneficial, glutathione is beneficial, but those main ones are the ones it takes to actually reduce homocysteine into methionine.
Right.
So how do you know if your homocysteine is high?
It's a simple blood test.
You test it.
Yeah.
It is. It's easy. I've had people over the years. I had one lady specifically I can think of. I mean, she kept getting stent after stent after stent after stent. I mean, this lady had so many stents. And they had her cholesterol rock bottom, and they kept saying, we don't understand why you keep getting blockages. Well, homocysteine will block an artery way quicker than cholesterol. We did, of course, our panel, and her homocysteine sky high. So we started giving her something, and then she brought it to the cardiologist. The cardiologist, here's your problem. She's like, well, how come you never checked this? That was kind of the thing is, okay, you know what it is. You know that it causes problems, but yet you don't check it. Well, one of the things that I know from a lot of insurance companies is they won't pay for homocysteine unless you've already had a heart attack, which is kind of weird. You don't want to wait until you have a heart attack to be able to get your homocysteine checked. And then, of course, sometimes they won't pay for it even then. And so it's all about who's going to pay for the test. Medically, there is no drug for it. there's only supplements. And they do have some medications that are supplements, but then again, insurance refuses to pay for them because it's a supplement and not an actual drug.
And they charge a lot for that particular drug.
Yes, and they do.
Okay.
So because of all that, we won't look at it, and therefore it don't exist.
Welcome to medicine in America today.
Yeah.
If they don't have a drug for it, it doesn't exist. And that's kind of sad.
It is.
It really is. But it's a huge part. Now, not only cardiovascular, another thing that it's been implicated in, and you may know somebody in your family or somebody that a friend or whoever that might benefit from this. And it's also been really, really implicated in dementias of all kinds.
Yeah, dementia definitely is increased by high homocysteine. And, that is on the rise. Everybody knows, because everybody knows they know a lot of people that's had it.
Oh, yeah.
That is something that people do need to know where their homocysteine is. I tell people, even if you don't have a risk and don't have family, I say at 50 to check it. Now, if you have anybody in your family, if you have any type of risk anywhere, check it younger. Like I said, we've actually had teenagers that we show it high. You can start young, decreasing it, and that way they don't have a problem. Now, one of the things that we have seen linked with homocysteine, even as a young person, is anxiety and depression.
Yes.
When people can't methylate, it also affects those things as well. They've also found that many of the people with fibromyalgia have methylation issues.
Right.
So it doesn't just tell you one thing, and it's not just cardiovascular. Now, all this testing that we've talked about for cardiovascular, a lot of times can affect other things like the brain. We always say what's good for the heart is good for the brain, and what shows that it's bad for the heart is bad for the brain. So you really have to look at a wide variety of testing to know exactly where to go and to decrease the risks that are coming. I hear people every single day when I say, okay, we can do our cardiac panel. They say, oh, no, I just had a stress test. And to me, that is not checking your risk factors. That's to see, do you already have a blockage? And it's not even very effective at that. There's many false negatives and false positives to a stress test. So that's why you want to do blood testing. Even if you've had a stress test, even if you've had an echo, there's things that don't get shown on that testing that you can see a risk factor for. And you do something preventatively before it causes a problem.
When you look at something like a stress test or an echo, you're looking at a physical test, okay, for the physical body. Now, the body's very adaptive, and it can kind of struggle its way through a lot of stuff. I've seen many people who had no problem with the stress test, and yet they had a heart attack, or they've had heart attacks. They've had all kind of problems. But when you look at something like homocysteine and knowing that that can really be that, and it's something simple to fix, but you have to know it's there. This is where we have to take responsibility and say, hey, it's my health. I really want to know.
Is there something you can take for it? Yes, there is.
Yes.
We have a product called Methylcore. Works very, very well at lowering homocysteine. It's one of those things that you can say almost all the time. The only group of people that I see it is hard to bring their homocysteine down is someone with really bad kidney function.
Well,
and we're talking about really bad kidney function, not even just somebody that's marginal. We're talking about somebody that's getting close to dialysis. It is hard to bring their homocysteine down because they know that when kidneys don't function, it's another issue that does affect it. Right. So that group of people is harder, but you still can bring it down some, even in that group. And in other people, you can bring it down effectively very fast and keep it down. It's really easy.
It's very simple. Like with Methylcore, it's one capsule a day.
Right.
Typically will do the job for most people. So it's something simple, easy to do something about and managing it. And really and truly, all this testing that we're talking about doing for cardiovascular and brain and everything else, what it does is risk management. You know what your risks are.
Right.
If you don't have a risk in a certain area, well, okay, cool. But if you do have a risk in a certain area and you have genetics that back that up, let's say family, have other problems and so on, then you can do something about it, and you need to.
Just because you don't have it in your family does not mean you can't have a problem. True. You can always have one parent with one mutation and you end up with two, which makes yours worse. But another factor is we see a lot of people, and they may not even have the genetic mutations for methylation, but they're just deficient in B12, and folate.
Well,
And
that's
those
true.
vitamin deficiencies also elevate homocysteine, even without the genetic risk. Now, in many people, we do see it with the genetic risk. But even without that, the B12 and folate deficiency can definitely increase homocysteine as well.
And I will say that, when we talk about folate, it's not folic acid. Folic acid is a synthetic. And if you can't methylate properly, back to that methylation thing, then you can't convert folic acid into folate.
Right.
That's the problem. Folic acid's put in just about every packaged processed food.
Right. And when you do have the genetic mutation, you absolutely want to stay away from synthetic folic acid
Exactly.
because it can actually build up and become toxic and cause another host of problems.
Right.
We've told you a lot about homocysteine, showed why you need to have it checked. And I do think everybody needs to have it checked. And that way you can actually reduce your risk.
Yeah. So hopefully you got a little bit of out of this and kind of follow along this whole series that we've been talking about things specific to the heart and cardiovascular studies. If you got something out of it, stick around for the rest of them because we're going to be talking about a lot more testing specifically to the heart and cardiovascular system. Thank you again.